not necessarily the crypto space, but uh, the blockchain business and all of those areas. You're like the person now. You're like the icon for you're the inspiration for what's possible. That's really your position. I don't know if you see that, but that it is what it is.
I appreciate that, and I'm humbled by it. It shouldn't be that way. I figure we're what 10 to 12% of the population. At a bare minimum, I would like to see that same representation, but unfortunately, that's not the case. Um, there are a lot of barriers there. It's very difficult for me to identify the barriers, even if I were not to be politically correct. Sometimes I choose to be, but you can see either as a maverick or as a black man or as a disruptor. Uh, there are a lot of obstacles that are appearing that don't seem to appear for other industry stalwarts. Um, who knows what the reason is? But if I am considered the inspiration for the black man, I consider that one of the highest compliments, and I'm definitely humbled. Um, Everybody else can join me. You know, I'm not particularly special in any way. I'm just very serious, a very hard worker, and probably most importantly, a very smart worker. So I invite any and all to come and join me.
Amazing. That right there is a very humble statement, and it shows how humbled you really are in this space, and you've always shown that. You've been an example of that, and just to piggyback on that, on the community itself, it is an inspiration, to see, a black man and taking a lead such of in an innovative lead, in a way where it's like you coming to change the game, in a way where it's you want to disrupt things for the better, and that's a high position also in itself. So I mean, yeah, applause on this side. Applause on this side too.
Yeah. Well, disruption is the name of the game. If you walk into a system, you walk into a socioeconomic network where you're not on top, the only way to attain that higher rung is to disrupt. So if let's suppose that the black man, so to say, was at the top rung of the socioeconomic ladder, what is his job?
I mean, the lead.
Say it
to
again.
lead, to lead or to be a leader.
Actually, assuming that all human beings are inherently selfish and have selfish interests, his job would be to maintain that top rung, to stay on top.
Okay.
Okay. So if he's on top and his job is to stay on top for his progeny, for his heirs, for his legacy, for um, those who are like him or who benefit him, then he has to make sure he lays the ground rules to prevent anybody else from toppling him from that position. So this is at this point, we're talking socioeconomics. We're not talking black, white, Jew, Christian, Gentile. We're talking human selfish interest. So in order to lay the groundwork to make sure that nobody else can topple him from his position, he creates a hierarchy of layers of influence, of which he's at the top, and each layer between him and those who would take his position from him act as barriers. He creates a set of rules that everybody has to follow. Those who follow those rules are guaranteed not to attain his position. Hence, the only way for him to be toppled from his position is those rules that he has created, has to be broken. Those barriers and those layers have to be pierced. And that's the only way to topple the black man from the position of uh, socioeconomic superiority. Now, let's come back to the reality as it stands today. The black man is not at the top, it is somebody else. That means that the black man is below the top, either at the bottom or somewhere in between. So, if that black man wants to, or any man, again, it's not about black or white, Jew or Gentile, left or right, American, Asian, etc. Anybody who's not at the top who wants to attain that top position has to, by definition, break the rules, has to, by definition, disrupt the status quo, because the status quo does not put you on top. Legacy institutions were designed to keep you in your place because they were designed by those who are on top to keep them on top. So there is no choice but to disrupt. Either disrupt or stay at the bottom.
Ooh, man, oh man. And you know what? We jump right into such a heavy topic, man. I want to bring it back for the viewers. You know, they're starting to come in. We're live on YouTube right now. They're starting to come in, and we got Reggie Middleton in the building with the special guest interviewer Tony Drake. And we are diving into understanding Veritaseum and the business behind it, the whole model, the whole understanding. It's not your average ICO token, you know, that, you know, many people are comparing it to or trying to compare, you know. So we want to, you know, like you say, break those barriers and break those misunderstandings. And right now, I mean, just taking the position that you're starting at right there is already like inspiring and powerful, in a sense of powerful, because for it's like it takes a level of confidence also, you know, to do what you're doing also. So that's a great inspiration right there too, my brother.
You know what? It also speaks to this. You can compete or you can create.
There you go.
That's what Reggie.
Yes.
Yeah. If you're going to compete, by definition, the term compete means that you're playing by someone else's rule set. Exactly. So it's a possibility you can win in natural competition. But, you know, in the business world, there is probably no such thing as natural competition, because you have unnatural barriers, which is why you have those the oligarchy, who risen to the top. And a lot of people attempt to place, I guess, certain human characteristics to definitely non-human processes, like economics and finance. You know, I don't know if good or bad, you know, really applies. What does apply is winner and loser, powerful and less powerful. Now, of course, you know, if you're on top, you consider where you are good and where people are not bad, but that's selfish interest. That's not necessarily accurate. If you're not on top, you consider those who are on top possibly bad and yourself good. You know, the reason is, you know, people always attribute the most positive light to themselves, even if they may aspire to be somewhere else. What I would propose is you take the human characteristics out and you view everything for what it actually is. A survival of the fittest style competition, okay? Competition for resources. Natural competition, again, in socioeconomics and, you know, capitalism, just doesn't come into play. It doesn't. That's like putting a tiger in a cage with a mouse and say, this is a natural contest. It is not, because how often are tigers in cages with mice in nature? And, exactly. You know, of course, the tiger overpowers the mouse, but it overpowers the mouse because someone created a rule set where you had a very powerful animal, the very small animal, and a bunch of bars to restrict nature from taking its course. So whenever you come into, you know, the concept of natural competition in the capitalistic pursuit, you know, it's a misnomer. It's just not the case.
So and like I like to break it down, you know, this is why I'm glad to have you on the show, because, you know, watching you speak, you know, you have your intellect is very deep, you know. You can have, and it can be lengthy. And just to break it down, you just saying you really got to know the game, peep the game, understand the game, and know how to position yourself. You know,
what I'm really saying is you have to make your own game. You know, if you play someone else's game by someone else's rules, you start off behind an 8 ball and you're probably going to fall farther and farther. The rules are there for a specific reason, and that is to keep those who are in power, and to only let those who they allow to climb up the ranks. A perfect example is the education system in the US. Okay, public education was designed to create worker bees, you know, widget builders and robots. It wasn't designed to enrich the populace. If it was, then when you went to school, you know, you start off in kindergarten, they would teach entrepreneurialism. Yes. Okay, they'll teach technology. They'll teach the sciences, hardcore sciences. Okay, instead, what do they teach? They teach rote memorization, times tables, US history that doesn't apply, often inaccurate, They teach, certain liberal arts, things that just don't apply to increasing influence and wealth, particularly generational wealth. And what places would they teach these? The very, very exclusive schools where the oligarchy already exists. And now, of course, you could create a school open to the populace, to the masses, the hoi polloi, the middle class, working class, etc., to teach all these things. But if you did, you will arm them with the means to break the rule set. Why would those in charge voluntarily do such? As a matter of fact, those in charge will fight tooth and nail to prevent that from happening. That's so, right. There's a constant class struggle, a constant power struggle. Nobody wants to admit it because it's not PC, it's not politically correct. That doesn't mean it's the truth. If I was a weatherman and I told you there was a hurricane coming and you really didn't want a hurricane to come, you can hate me. You can shoot me in the back. But you know what happens? You have a dead weatherman on the ground with a hurricane blowing over him. Okay, your perception, your the ability to like the message does very, very little to change the actual message itself.
That's true. Powerful, powerful, powerful. Well, my brother Tony Drake, would you like to lead off with maybe some questions for brother Reggie?
Sure, most definite. Again, Reggie, thanks for coming on the platform, man. Like I said, it's an honor to speak with you. Like I said, I've been following you, but you and Max Kaiser for years, and it's been good. It's been very educational, and I'm glad to see that you broke out on your own to do these great works that you're doing. Because I knew it was something that you were going to do. When I used to see you on Max Kaiser, and listen to the analysis and listening to the information and how you brought that information together. Man is going to do something. I don't know what. He's going to do something. So I just kept following you. And so when Veritaseum came into play, I'm like, I knew he was going to do something significant. So when I listened to the platform, how you were developing the platform, I knew he was going to do something great. So let me ask you a few questions. First question is, myself and the brother, we have a project that we're working on. It's a very broad platform of services across multiple industries. We're looking at doing an ICO offering. And some of the questions we want to ask you was, in terms of viability, what are some of the sources? We know about GitHub and some other platforms, but we are in need of a really solid developer. Do you have any suggestions?
When you say development, you mean development team, or I'm not clear on the question?
Well, we're looking, we actually need like a software developer.
Okay.
You can develop.
Look at it this way. Now that ICOs are very, very popular, okay, and now that tech in general is very popular, it's probably now the largest contributor to GDP, probably passing finance. Software developers are in demand. Okay, there's a shortage of them. There's even a greater shortage of good software developers. And then there's even a greater shortage of good software developers that can work in teams that don't have prima donna attitudes. And even if you have find a software developer that is a developer that is good, that can work in teams, and that doesn't have a prima donna attitude, he's still a human being, and he realizes I'm in high demand. And not only am I in high demand, but a lot of my competition can't work in teams, aren't good, have prima donna attitudes. So A, he's a scarcity. B, like in any other economic network, since he's a scarcity, he's going to have a significantly high price. And that's only if he's available. So it's hard to find software developers that can fit the bill. I think the general quality of software development is trending down simply because more and more people are jumping in, and the quality of developers, and it takes time to develop this level of expertise, are trending down relative to that environment as a whole. Now, that's not to say that they're not good software developers. There are, and as more people come into the market, you have more talent coming in the market. But it takes time to gain experience. Okay, number one. Two, it takes time to learn, the ins and outs of various platforms. And three, there's such thing as raw talent, which people have, but so many people have raw talent, at a very high level. Then there's above average level, below average, etc. So I've had problems finding good talent, not just in software development, but also in many other lines.
Right.
So, the best way to do it is you find someone who's done outstanding work in the past and you make them an offer. Of course, now that, you have to swim the cacophony of other competitors, making similar offers,
Right.
it's going to be expensive. Not necessarily expensive in terms of money, but time, resources, equity, tokens, etc.
Yes. Now to piggyback off of that, now would it be like similar to what you say that you have set up, with Veritaseum? It's you have a full development team already in place, correct?
Well, I have a four. I have 3 developers, engineers, coders, developers, and I have a guy who does project manager, using the Scrum / Agile technique or methodology. The development is, I can't say it's small, but it's definitely only a portion of our business. I notice a lot of people in the ICO space, token space, blockchain space, think that development is the end all and be all. And it's the only industry where that mentality, is prevalent. Even in software development, much of software management in terms of companies, software company management are not developers. You have business development guys, you have operation guys, HR, you have sales, you have a lot. Look at Microsoft. Microsoft's upper management, the CEO was a salesperson, the ex-CEO, Steve Ballmer. If you look at, and if you leave the actual software industry, you have almost no developers in the higher end, only the CTO and maybe CIO. Okay. So if you go into finance and you go into marketing, you go into industrial, manufacturing, etc. So of course, in software development, software developers play a key role. Okay. But whether they play the majority role, if they do, then, you have an unbalanced team, in my opinion.
So it sounds like there's a lot of dev hype up there. Developer hype.
It's understandable because it's devs that are doing the hype. If you ask, a 6'2" black man in New York, who's the most attractive potential suitor for a beautiful woman, guess what that 6'2" New York black man will probably say? Me. Right? So, it all depends who you ask. You ask developers who's most important. Okay, if they're not going to be absolutely honest, or if they just don't understand how business works, of course they're going to say developers. There's nothing, notorious about it. I'm not saying that it's a scheme for them to take over the world, but they have, from my experience, an unrealistic and potentially unhealthy view of how a business team should be put together. Software developers should be best suited for software development. Definitely not for running a company.
Right.
Unless you have a very, very special software developer. And if that's the case, then he's much more than a software developer. He's also whatever he does well, management, marketing, etc.
Hey, and to bring it home, just to bring it home for the demographic, and for the newcomers that's watching, we need more software developers. We need more. We need more of, more creators, that's developing software. Get behind into any programs that is teaching this, because this is the space. This is the field. A very, very valuable field right now to be in and going forward, it looks like.
And, we talked about that. We talked about the fact that, in industry right now, in education and academics, you have a lot of people going into professions that are outdated, that's dying professions. But because, we're looking at the blockchain, we're looking at this new technology, and it's evolving very rapidly, and you don't have enough developers and engineers coming into that space, or like Reggie said, in general, quality developers. It would be a really good thing if we could see more people of African origin come into this space, not just crypto, but into software development, engineering, etc., and really come into the space, because this is the future, rather than, let's say, go into a lot of other professions that are dying professions. I just wanted to bring that out.
Right. The STEM programs, are still woefully underutilized. Entrepreneurial programs, which don't necessarily focus on any particular expertise, but focus on the way that expertise is applied, It's not taught in most schools. And if it is, it's not taught by successful entrepreneurs, which it needs to be in order to be successful, in my opinion. So science, technology, engineering, mathematics, you know, you need much more representation. Once it comes to which industry that I recommend people go into, especially lawyers, I tell them smart contract development, engineering. You know, that's the wave of the future. Short, medium-term future. The long-term future, medium to long-term, you know, I don't know, because I think the most prevalent business models haven't even been discovered yet. That's where we are in terms of this paradigm shift.
That's some game right there for you, family. That's a recommendation. So that's something that you can really look into, saying, all right, well, let me look into this. You know, I don't know much about these smart contract things anyway, so let me look into this now and, you know, see what's being developed and see what you can now develop. Okay.
And why you should get into it now, because not only would XYZ, but not only would, let's assume you don't, not only do you not know much about smart contracts and how they can be applied from a complex perspective, but nobody else does either, which means your competition is close to nil. Ooh. So this is the time again, you become the expert. Instead of looking for an expert, that expert should be you.
In every small community, just a group of 10, 20, 50, you can be that one that's teaching. You can be that one that's developing something, you know. Wow.
And consider this now. You're in the entertainment industry. We are too, to an extent. But I'm saying, you know, in terms of smart contracts with, you know, entertainers, musicians, artists, etc. The interesting thing about, you know, when you look at some of these streaming platforms like Spotify, Tidal, Rhapsody, et cetera, a lot of these companies really don't pay artists much when they stream their music. I mean, they make very small amounts of income from their music being streamed. I know there's some changes going on in the industry, but with smart contracts, artists should be able to negotiate with those companies via smart contracts upfront before they even consider going with the company's standard policies.
Yeah, it gives the artist back the power also.
Well, but like I hate to be like to bring up bad news, but it sounds like I interrupted you. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'll continue after.
Well, I wanted to say this, but it goes back to what you said earlier about, you know, if you're at the top, you don't want anybody else to come and knock you off that plateau. So in reference to, you know, the entertainment industry, and it's so controlled and so manipulated, and only a few are allowed to come to the top, like you said, and the rest are like either in the middle or at the bottom. Our position is, in terms of the technology that we're creating, is we give everybody that equal platform, and we'll be able to share that with you as we complete a lot of our work. The music industry itself just don't allow for that equal exposure to artists. No matter what the genre is, they just don't have it. And personally, I find that a lot of the underground music is a lot more creative and a lot more raw talent than what I'm seeing in the commercial. But go ahead.
Well, there's not a lot of money left in the music industry relative to where it used to be back when I was, say, in college or high school, because the paradigm shift that was the internet reduced friction, increased access, and it basically took the ability for the music industry moguls to charge. And so because they can't charge, their revenues went down, so did their profits. But the music industry is still very prevalent in Black culture, and a lot of, you know, Black youth, and not just the youth, still aspired to rise in the music industry. If I were, and I'm not in the music industry, okay, but I did go to school with a lot of people who were prevalent, you know, I mean, Puff and everybody, we all went to Howard together. I look at them rise. But if I was an aspiring young musician, and I took the time to understand the blockchain industry, smart contracts, etc., I would not even consider creating a smart contract to make a deal or contract with the oligarch in the music industry, because it's not necessary. Smart contracts allow two or more separate individuals to do business directly with each other without a middleman, without an authoritative third party. full autonomy. So if I could become autonomous in my business dealings, why would I even include like a distribution company? Distribution companies are at their weakest point because distribution is close to free right now. The internet. Okay. The only thing that's preventing those who really look to cash in on this is marketing. You can purchase marketing through a separate third party. If you purchase marketing and you have the smart contract to enforce terms, you have everything that you need, and you do not need a third party, a distribution company at all. That means that distribution company, who takes by far the lion's share of the profits, by far, is now cut out. That's true disintermediation. So now you have the listener and you have the author of the content, the music. They do business directly with each other. Okay, the listener pays less for it. The author of content gets paid more. This is the best of both worlds. Okay, and now you have much more creative freedom. So now the author of this content, the musician, can create new business models. And this is what paradigm shifts are about. Technology never forces a company out of business. It never destroys industries. What destroys industries and destroys companies is the business models that are enabled by the technology. So me as, Fly Reg, a new hip hop artist called Fly Reg, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to create content. I'll distribute it via smart contract to all of my listeners or fans. And then I hire a marketing company, either upfront, let them get a small cut of the profits, etc., and have them push and distribute. Now, I've replicated the entire business model of the distribution company, say Sony, whoever else, MGM or whoever else does the distribution, right? And then I say, I can create a concert. I could do a concert, and I could have personal, Q&A. I could have actual interaction with my clients, my fans. Okay, limited to 20 seconds each, and promise to do 10, 15, 20 a day.
Reggie, you must be psychic because you're tapping into our program, brother.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm gonna stop then. Sorry about that. But what I was doing is, I'm going with the flow, and I'm just saying what happens if you cut out the authoritative third party. You take their profits and you split it up with your fans, with your customers. Okay. Now you have a lot of time, a lot of extra profit available. Now you have new things to do. Concerts where people sit and, watch something on a screen from 40 feet away can be totally changed, totally transformed. Okay. And there's always more profit to split up because you eliminate the rent seeker, which is a distribution company who are charging you for something that's almost free. It's distribution over the internet.
But now you see Reggie's psychic abilities. You see that, right?
Yeah, that might have to be a sound bite for the promo. For the promo of the ICO, and we gonna hashtag that Fly Reg. Oh man, Fly Reg speaks
on point, 100% on point.
Yeah, that was a great breakdown. And what happens is that what I like to know is bringing it back to Veritaseum, right? That's an ICO that you launched, like, and from my perspective, very successfully. From what I was able to read, and then just following the trends in the videos, it was a successful ICO. And my question is, what are the key players or key roles that are needed to create a successful ICO?
Well, you need legal and compliance, especially now that the SEC has made their viewpoint clear, or at least clearer. I wouldn't say clear. You need marketing. When I did my offering, I really don't like the term ICO. When I did my token sales, because I consider what we're selling as software. And when I did our software token sales, I contacted a few marketing companies, but they didn't want to do business with me. And the reason was valid, that it was sort of short notice. And they said they needed, a month, 2 months, 3 months of pre-sales marketing. And I said, okay, well, I'll handle it myself. And I marketed it myself through social media distribution channels, through the website, through word of mouth. Um, I generated enough upfront capital through pre-sales or through actual sales where I was able to fund operations. Not everybody can do that if you don't have a strong social media following or do have a strong following with your contingency. So if you don't have that, then you need to do business with third-party marketers. But at that point, you need to make up your mind, who do you want to benefit with these sales? Do you want to sell upfront at heavy discounts to investors and let them, get the pop and get the economic value of your offering, at its launch? Or do you want to benefit your actual constituency and potentially, enrich them with the flood of value that you would unleash, assuming that you do have a viable product? If you sell to marketers and the marketers then, or if you do business with marketers who sell to investors who purchase at a discount, and you succeed, that value transfer didn't go to your community. It didn't go to your constituency. Right. It didn't even go to you. It went to someone else who's essentially disinterested in your business, okay, your platform. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. A lot of people want it. A lot of people just want money. But, if you have a close connection, a relationship with the constituency, you need to learn to put them first because they're the ones that are going to push you forward. And when things don't go well, you fall, and that's guaranteed to happen. Guaranteed, they're the ones who are going to catch you and lift you up.
Wow. Now, in relation to to your token, that's pretty much the road that you went down. You didn't do it as a token, as a token that someone can, just because they're interested in, they can buy in and then profit off of. That's not the direction that you went.
Yeah, I really tried my best to steer clear of, this is an investment, these are securities.
Right.
It's a piece of software that has utility value that you could use to build things. You can also use it to engage us, advisory consulting, and the things that you build, hopefully, are very valuable with it. Okay. As we prove this use case scenario, the general value of the software increases. One reason is because it's tied to our ability to advise and consult, which is limited. And we grow this ability, and we use a platform, the Bitcoin, not Bitcoin, sorry, currently the Ethereum platform, but in general, a blockchain consensus network platform, to gain certain economic efficiencies. But in general, it's not an investment, a capital or financial investment. This is an investment in your ability to make things with what you purchase. Very much like you can buy an Excel spreadsheet for $59. Okay, Microsoft may increase the price of Excel to $100. Someone could come by and say, I'll buy it for you for $250 because they just need a spreadsheet quickly, etc. You have a 5 times return, but that return will pale in comparison to your ability to actually learn how to use the spreadsheet. Use that spreadsheet to value investment models, business processes, budgets, etc. And then you turn around and make a couple of $1 million from it. Okay, $50 on a couple of $1 million is much more valuable to you. It should be than $50 into $250.
Yes.
Don't have short-termism thinking. Think medium term. Think in terms of generational influence, generational wealth, both from an individual and a corporate perspective. And now you're, living the Veritaseum way.
Now, is that when I'm selling off, what I have, is that what I'm selling off, my product, or I'm selling off the renting off the Veritaseum tokens? Like when you say to get that return.
Well, it all depends on, what you plan to do with it. You can sell the actual software off. You can sell something you built with the software and maintain the software. You can rent the software out to somebody else who you feel has more expertise in building something with the software. It's all relative.
Okay.
A good example, I was on Cliff High's interview YouTube channel, and he's a very smart dude, and we came up with the example of a generator. In the winter, you watch Game of Thrones. Winter is coming, and I believe it is coming for many. Okay, so you go to Walmart, you pick up a generator for $50. Okay, you anticipate winter. It's cold, and then someone comes around and says, "I'm going to offer you $500 for this generator because the shelves are empty at Walmart. It's a chilly August in New York, and it has been. September, October, December is coming. So you say, wow, this dude's a sucker. He's going to give me $500 for what I just paid $50 for. You sell it to him. Winter gets here, it drops 2 or 3 degrees below freezing. Okay, you have no heat. You realize that 10 times return, which you thought was phenomenal, and ends up being one of the worst deals you've done in your life because, yes, you did sell that generator for a high capital gain, but you now have a family who's freezing. Your little daughter's shivering, getting sick. You're sick. You look around, you contemplate the possibility of loss of life. Why? Because you sold a valuable tool and did not understand its utility value. Someone who did understand its utility value came in and paid you 10 times what you paid for it, and he got the bargain of a lifetime. And you made probably the last deal of your life, assuming you don't get to survive that winter.
So tokens is synonymous with software. Software is synonymous with utility value.
As we are doing it, yes.
Okay. So to break it down to a let's say a inner city level where like not small nonprofit organizations or community organizations or just large families, how can they what can they do with Veritaseum?
Okay, well, I'm going to answer that question, but before I do, let me harp on the inner city label because I was a real estate investor and I've grown up and lived in various different parts of New York and DC, traveled a lot. In New York, the inner city, those deep inside the urban areas,
yes,
is probably where Trump lives, Fifth Avenue. Fifth Avenue, Manhattan. Okay, one of the wealthiest parts of not only this city, but the country. Okay, if you go to many other cities, the inner city, is usually the wealthiest parts. Okay, due to gentrification, as a matter of fact, even the outer boroughs are becoming wealthier, and they're pushing those who didn't make much into suburbs outside of the urban area in general. Okay, so I understand inner cities what someone may cling on to because they've heard it before, and that's what the media does. But whenever you think of inner city in New York, think of Trump Towers and our president.
Okay.
I might have to say it that way. Okay.
Now, so can I say the hood then?
You know what? If you're talking about like disadvantaged areas of the community, say disadvantaged. Those who don't have access, you can say those who don't have access. Now I'm just being a stickler, okay, because I follow demographic movements because that's how I learn. And there's a long story behind that, so I'm not gonna go in deep. But you could say the hood or less advantaged or less accessed areas. So the hood. Well, first of all, in purchasing Veritaseum, the best thing that anybody can do, and right now, those who live in a hood around me, ask me a lot for advice, and I actually talk to them freely. You get to learn. Just the ability to purchase Veritaseum teaches you how to buy and sell and access these digital assets. Teaches you how to store them. Teaches you to go through security issues. That alone is an education that you will never get in school, particularly public schools. Okay. Currently, the only schools that teach these things are very, very high level, higher education, Ivy League. I know Harvard University and MIT teach it, but Harvard University, MIT is probably very different from PS, 139 out in Brooklyn. PS means public school. This education, just purchasing and selling and understanding how to value or at least quantify these tokens is a very, very strong start. Now, you start learning how the tokens work, the difference between a token with utility value that you could build something with and a token that's pure speculation. And then you understand, well, if you're going to speculate on a token or buy it, how much would it be worth if I were to sell it or buy it? How much is it worth over the long term? What makes it valuable? These tokens are usually owned by organizations, oftentimes businesses, right? Not-for-profit business, profit business. If it's a for-profit business, what's management about? What are the margins, revenues, profits? How defensible are the margins? Is there anything to the business, any assets, intellectual property, other assets? These questions that you're forced to ask and answer if you do it right. Give those in the hood the inner city, disadvantaged areas, an education that is vastly superior to the rote memorization widget builders that the powers that be force through the public education system. And I teach a lot, and I volunteer in schools, private and public. I go from, the highest level schools down to the schools where you have to spend 12 minutes to get through a whole battery of metal detectors just to get in. Okay. And I see extreme talent and extreme intellectual capability in all the schools. Intellect does not have physical locations. They're not selected by geographic location, not selected by skin color, by race, by religion, or creed. Oftentimes intellect goes unrecognized because, those who possess the intellect simply don't have access. Some don't even have food. Some have to spend much more of their intellect surviving the trip back and forth to school versus learning something in school. So with that being said, you clear these barriers to access, you see that intellect bloom.
It's kind of
so
you're
far
giving
away
them
from cryptocurrency, I'm starting to preach. So if you want me to go right into the topic.
No, but that was, see, you took it to a level where you can actually connect it, like in a spirituality level of knowing the value of yourself and what you bring to and what you're going to create with holding these tokens, in a sense, with having this software. I'm sorry, what your business model and what you're going to be doing on this platform. So it's knowing thyself, is the value, and it brings more value.
Let me just say this, if I may. And it's something that I came across in terms of, research and looking at ICOs, et cetera. And I know, like you said, Reggie, there are a lot of ICOs coming out. It's real hot. Everybody's going the ICO way. And that, the SEC position was a lot of these companies are producing these ICO campaigns, but they're crossing the line and offering securities. Now, the flip side of that, or the other side of that, is what is the purpose of the token? Is the token actually being used in the business? Is it an essential part of the business? I know that's the borderline right now where the SEC rulings are focusing on, targeting in on. My question to you, Reggie, is this. When receiving, let's say, purchases of the tokens, now I don't know if the tokens were being purchased with multiple cryptocurrencies or did some people purchase it with fiat? But my question is, did you have a mechanism that managed the purchases that came in during your campaign, during your ICO offering? Meaning, let's say if you received Bitcoin, how was that managed? Or if you received Dash or Ethereum, how was that managed? Did it have to go into an escrow account? I mean, if you don't mind sharing it with us, what was that process like?
Well, initially we had a small contract that managed everything. The small contract automated the whole spiel, and the small contract dealt primarily with Ethereum, FF, because it was built on the Ethereum blockchain. We opened it up to Bitcoin, but that had to be done manually. And we also opened up to Ethereum as well, which also had to be done manually. So you send the Bitcoin or Ethereum to an address, and we tabulated and counted it by hand, which was actually a nightmare. It took a very long time. We didn't realize what we were getting ourselves into. And also, when it was time to stop, a lot of people just chose not to stop. They read the directions, they kept sending it, which means we had to refund it. We refunded it for about a month until we came to the conclusion that this would never stop because people simply were trying to force access into the token. And so we made an announcement that anybody who sent to this address, which wasn't published anymore, but anybody who did send to it would simply, because we simply consider a donation to the company, which of course started tapering off quickly after that. Now, what was the second part of your question? I want to make sure I answer it completely.
Oh, I was just asking, so how was that process managed when you were receiving those donations, et cetera? I wanted to know.
Yeah, I remember. So in order to access the smart contract or the manual, contract process, you have to read through our documentation. We actually had terms and conditions of our software sale. We actually had a product purchase agreement. Between the two of them, they're about maybe, 15 or 35 pages or so. And, for the most part, I made sure that everybody, at least if they bought it from us, either understood what they was buying, or at least alleged to understand what they were buying. So, I can't force them to read it, but I could force them before they got to the address to acknowledge that it was there and to admit that they read it. I can't, police everybody whether they lie or not, but the goal was to make sure that everybody understood exactly what it was we were selling, how we were selling it, how we were marketing it, and what they were buying. And then there was one automated process and one manual process.
Wow, so no escrow account was required. Anything, nothing like that was a part of the process.
No. Yeah, I didn't see a need for escrow. I can understand the requirement or desire for escrow from an investor's perspective, but we weren't selling investments. We were selling software. Okay. Microsoft sells Microsoft Office and Windows licenses. They don't escrow it. They accept it. They might not consider all earned revenue up front, but it still goes into their account for use to run the business as they deem fit. And we consider ourselves selling software and consulting and advising services, not investments.
Right. And Reggie, also, I did notice that you talked about the white paper in the video and how so many companies are producing white papers, but very few of those white papers are actually being executed in terms of what the content, what the concept of the process is. In other words, they produced the white paper about what they were going to do in terms of, whatever technology based on the token sale or ICO. Most companies are not performing. Like you said, this is true.
Right. A white paper by definition is an academic thesis. And white papers that are being produced are neither academic nor thesis. They're marketing material. There's nothing wrong with producing marketing material, nothing at all. But calling marketing material white paper is misleading. Now, I think the term white paper has been misused so much in the token offering space that it's accepted that the white paper is marketing. But, white papers in our industry don't apply. And, too many people, I can't even say a lot, but too many people are trying to force, the software or the ICO model on our business when it just doesn't fit. Our closest competitor is Goldman Sachs. Okay, it's not someone who offers ICOs through a blockchain. Okay, when you go to Goldman Sachs website, do a search for the white paper on their business. You won't find it. Okay, do a search for open source on the GitHub. Actually, Goldman Sachs, believe it does have open source code, but it has nothing to do with their business. It's for some utility. Same thing with JP Morgan, Citibank, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, etc. These are our real world competitors. And I feel that many in the ICO space are not living in the real world. They're living in their little ICO crypto world, which is good, cool, not necessarily good. But as the numbers start to increase, the value starts to increase, the competition starts to increase, you're doing some disservice by not stepping out into the real world. And if you stepped out in the real world, people would be, flummoxed by the fact that you're using white papers for marketing and that you expect things to be hunky-dory because you have a fancy website or you have a white paper, but you don't have any real traction. Now, I made sure to prove that Veritaseum had at least one demonstrable product before the token offering period ended. We had a product before then, which we own all the code, all the intellectual property to, that was trading for years, or operating for years, I'm sorry. And I showed proof of traction weeks after the sale ended with the Jamaican Stock Exchange. And we have quite a few others in the pipeline. Traction in business, not white papers and slick websites. The need for slick websites and white papers seems so antithetical to business to me. Now, that would not be the case if you did most of your business through the website, then it's a different story. But we do practically none of our business through a website. So, we go where the money is.
Right. Now, let me just say, Reggie, I was very inspired. Like I said, you did the video yesterday.
Yes.
You talked about, the Jamaican Stock Exchange and what you were doing. And, the company is doing, and the company's agenda to do a number of things across the globe. It was that particular segment of your presentation that I had to pause. Then I had to think about it for a while because it made me look at what I was doing completely differently. It made me look at the process very differently in terms of our concept and what we're doing on the technology, in this technology sphere. So I had to pause it and I had to think about that for a while. So what you did yesterday really broke the ice, man. I mean, it was like, what you did yesterday, basically you answered all of my questions, all the questions I answered. I only had a few to ask today, but you did an excellent job with basically disclosing what the company is doing, what the company's focus is and priorities. That just changed the way I saw our own company and what we're doing. So it gave me another perspective. Now we have to redo some things just from what you presented. That's why I said that at this point, you have to understand that you are an icon right now. No ifs and ands about it. You're an icon. That's great.
Especially
Thank
with
you very much, man. Like I said, I'm humbled. I
that
appreciate
approach. Especially, I mean, family, if you haven't seen Reggie Middleton's video he posted yesterday, pretty much it was like addressing, the naysayers or the non-believers in a sense and just clarifying it. And you went so direct with each point, it really did. It was like we could tackle the quote unquote drama that's trying to spill over from the haters that's out there. I can't be PC, but it's like you did it so professionally. You did it with your proof. You did it with intellect. It's more about what you show, and that's what you stand on. And just like how you said, that's how you launch, this whole ICO and this whole platform was with, I proved that I had the software, I have a proven track record and things of that nature. So yeah, we definitely, from our standpoint, I mean, the questions is answered, for understanding that if Veritaseum is real and or what's it's doing. Because it was laid out in that video from yesterday.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was on point, like 100% on point. In fact, it was like having a short course in business.
There you go. It was also
that should have been the case way before anybody even said they researched. You can't research a business if you don't know how to research businesses. You can't judge the value of a business if you don't know how to value business or don't know business. And I'm not trying to put down people who don't know it, but I am trying to put down people who allege that they know it and don't. It's a very big difference.
There you go.
I don't know 99.9% of the things in the world I'm ignorant to, but I fully admit it because I don't know. When I start putting myself as some type of expert and then putting someone else's business down, then that's a problem. And, that's what I was looking to allay. I'm actually going to have to go very soon. I'll stay for like another minute or two to answer questions, but I have to get back to work.
Yes, definitely. There's one last question that we can wrap it up, just to piggyback off of what we just said. Also, your video also, it showed that you set a new level to this approach in this blockchain with the blockchain technology and this whole crypto space. You did set a new level for us. So like I say, I mean, we definitely honor you for that. And for the last question of the day, it's really to say, where do you see, or what's your prediction, of where this whole crypto space, this market is actually going in the very near future, in a very, paint that vision for us.
Well, the easy money is going to be disappearing soon because regulatory authorities are cracking down. You're going to have larger participants in the market that are more well-rounded, so possibly professional. But you will also have the ability for larger markets and bigger businesses to come in as well because of the same reasons. You're going to see some regulation and you're going to see some more polished and professional players come in. So with that being said, you're going to have sort of having, 100, 40 to 50 ICOs per month. you probably have more like 4 or 5. But out of those 4 or 5, you know, 1 out of every 30 or 40 of them are going to be really, really worthwhile. You look at the IPOs coming to market. A lot of IPOs peter out, they don't do well. But 1 out of every couple of hundred of them, a couple of thousand, really home runs. You know, think of the Googles and the Facebooks and the Amazons. You know, these guys would most likely, the next Amazon, Google, Facebook would most likely go through the token offering route.
Wow.
You know, there's definitely some advantages to it, particularly in the low interest rate environment where private money flows almost as freely as public money. So there's no reason to go listed on the stock exchange.
Boom. Dropping the bomb on them like that. Oh man, brother Reggie Middleton, we really do appreciate you for coming on to the Crypto Kingz platform to drop your knowledge, your wisdom, that inspiration, and confidence and leadership all in one right here on this show today. I mean, it was there. Any last words for the brother Tony?
For myself?
Yes.
Oh, I'm like I said, like you just said, you know, this was excellent. And like I said, Reggie, thanks for that information. Like I said, I've been following you for quite a while on, like I said, RT, Max Keiser, and, you know, a lot of shows you've done. Been keeping up on that. So you've given me a lot now to work with, and I appreciate that. Thanks, Reggie.
You're welcome.
And to the viewers out there, make sure you hit that like button, you hit that share. Let's get this out there to the family so we can continue to spread this awareness. And it's your host, King Pup, and I'm just here to get you excited about that cryptocurrency, huh? Peace.
Later.